Hello, everyone, and welcome to the After Five podcast. The After Five podcast is a show that hosts corporate and personnel and high level individuals in the country. And it is meant to give a platform for various individuals to come on board and then share their ideas and even give solutions to some of the problems that we face as a nation. My name is Kofi Teria Edu, and today I have with me Mr. Philemon Laar, a very astute lawyer and also an educator at the Ghana Communication and Technology University, who is teaching cyber law and engineering ethics within the university. Welcome, Mr. Laar.
Thank you very much, Kofi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Kofi. I'm happy to be here. My
All
learned
right.
friend.
I like that. Okay, so
yeah.
very welcome to the show. We just want to have conversations about your life. We want to understand, what you've been through, your journey. We want you to use you as a way of encouraging other people to get into the law practice and even the political scene as well. I do know that you're a politician, and I believe that this platform would offer you the chance to express yourself on a lot of the things that are happening within the country as well. But then before we even get to that, we want to know your journey, where you started from, what you have been doing over the years, how practice has been so far, and how you're even combining politics with your practice as well. So first of all, I would like to know where you started from. I believe the audience would also like to know where you started from, your journey, and even your political career as well.
Thank you very much, Kofi. First of all, I must thank you. I must thank you for having me. I grew up in the northern part of Ghana, and I had always, whenever I talk about where I grew up, I say it with a certain sense of nostalgia because I say it's by the grace of God I'm where I am. Because I sit back and reflect on my colleagues I grew up with, and I look at the talent either in football, in academia. I knew so many brilliant people growing up with, most of them way smarter than me. And because of the inhibiting nature of education, the divide, the poverty divide between the north and the south, some of them could not go as far as they could go. And like that's what I'm so nostalgic about. But I grew up in Boko. I schooled in a school called Presby Primary and JSS. And incidentally, I was SP.
Wonderful.
That's where, of course, I had been class prefect a number of times. But and the thing about Presby is that if you wanted to run for office, you had to apply, you had to be vetted, you had to deliver a manifesto before like a 500 population school. You had to campaign like you were given like a week, 2 weeks to campaign. And that meant going around and talking to people, engaging them, convincing them. And of course, sometimes you'd give out sweets, as a means of saying, you are my friend. So just have this. But so that's how it happened. So I campaigned. By the grace of God, I got elected, and I served as SP for one academic year for my school. Afterwards, I went to the minor seminary, Notre Dame. Minor seminary because I wanted to be a priest. Yeah, I wanted to be a priest.
That is new. I never knew this.
Yes. I'm a Catholic. I grew up in the faith of Catholicism. I grew up admiring. I was actually a mass server. I was very close to the priest. I traveled with them to some of the rural parts of the Upper East to serve mass. I remember having to go to the hinterlands in the Upper East region with Father Ayimpusa, Joseph Ayimpusa.
Wow.
I used to go with him. Just me and him on motorbike. We go into the outstations to say mass. So I had the motivation to want to be a priest. So I went to the minor seminary. I read government in secondary school, government, economics, literature. I wrote history as a private candidate.
So would you say that your political ambition began way back as in junior high school?
Oh, yes. But you see, I think that it was mainly shaped by my father.
Okay.
My father, because my father is a disciplinarian. My father was very, he showed a tough love. So there are rules I had to adhere to at home. The first of them was that at 6:50 p.m., I had to be seated before the television. That was a rule I had to follow. Whether my father was home or not, I had to be by the TV at 6:50 p.m. in the evening. The reason was that I had to watch the news. And of course, in the north, we only had GTV. So I had to listen to the news. Even if my father is not home, I had to listen, hear which minister is for which region or for which part of, what the news is about. Perhaps if my father is somewhere else, he would watch the news where he is. And when he comes back, they mentioned the minister for that on the issue of agriculture. What's his name? Then I'll have to tell my father.
Wow.
Yes. So that's how it started. So I grew up, having an interest in governance, interested in what's happening in the country. I remember very vividly in the 2000 election, I was in my village. I come from a place called Kupila in the Upper East region. With my father, my father votes in my constituency. So we'd gone to the village to vote. And I remember having some paraphernalia of the party I subscribed to, even as like an 11, 12-year-old boy.
That is an interesting
That is
point.
then. Yeah.
So before you even go ahead, what attracted you to this particular political party?
Well, I must say that everyone is influenced by his environment. So in the north, where I come from, it appeared the NDC was the best option. And of course, you
Okay.
look at the issue of the poverty gap between the north and the south, and you'd see that the NDC is the party that invested massively in reaching out to the vulnerable, poor, disconnected parts of Ghana. Some would
Okay.
even call it the forgotten parts of Ghana. The NDC was attractive there because the NDC was available.
All
When other
right.
political parties cast us out, the NDC stood up for us. So I grew up knowing that if there was any political party to rely on, any political party that looks out for those that are cast down under the weight of inequality and poverty, then it is the NDC. So naturally, it was a natural, like for the NDC. So yes, that's how it happened. And I grew up admiring Rawlings. I grew up reading the news. Of course, we lost the 2000 election. I started following more keenly the activities of President Kufuor. And it's one funny thing. I'm not sure if I'm. One funny thing, a neighbor that the Honorable Joseph Akudbila,
Mm-hmm.
he eventually became MP of my constituency, independent MP of my constituency, and Deputy Minister for Defense. When he became Deputy Minister, his housekeeper would often gather newspapers, old
Mm-hmm.
newspapers, for me. So I've read extensively newspapers, the Ghanaian Lens, the
Mm-hmm.
Democrat, the Daily Guide, Daily Graphic, the Statesman, all of these newspapers, like they would bring a bundle of newspapers. And I'll dig into them, reading and reading and reading. Of course, I didn't understand everything, but I read. And I believe those things shaped my mind, shaped my thinking. And I must say that some of those newspapers were quite mean on President Kufuor.
Mm.
And it also influenced my thoughts quite negatively. But I mean, on hindsight, I think that not all of the reportage was fair about President Kufuor. Of course, he
Exactly.
had his very low moments, but I think he's way better than what his party represents today. Way better than what
Well,
his party is
that's
today.
interesting. I think back to the point you made concerning the attractiveness of the NDC in the northern part of the country. I would like to make, for lack of a better term, play devil's advocate. We know that for a while now, I think both terms of the NPP party, during Kufuor's tenure, the vice was from the north, I believe. And in Nanado's time, the vice is also from the north. So it's, for me, it begs to differ why, based on the comments you made, that it is more attractive. But it looks like every time that the NPP is in power, they have a vice president who is from the north. And I mean, that shows that the NPP is not so, cut from the north like you are making it seem. So just to draw attention to that fact as well.
Well, I like that you are playing the devil's advocate, but I respectfully disagree. I disagree because it's not enough to say you have a vice president from the north. And if you like, let's put in under the microscope now the current vice president who is from the north. This current vice president is on record, and this is something listeners, viewers can check. It's on record to have said that his greatest investment in the north as vice president, as someone hailing from the north, is the Palugu Dam project. He's on record to have said that. But recently, multimedia and some other journalists dispatched their people to Palugu, and not a single block has been laid.
Agree.
Not a single block
Yes,
has
I
been
agree.
laid.
But
so if you say you have a vice president who comes from the north and therefore he would project or protect the interests of the north, this is a classical example of one who comes from the north and has been a clear departure from pushing the interests of the north.
that's
a fact.
Yes, that's I may agree to, but my concern was the attractiveness of NPP within the north, that they've been completely cut out. I do believe that they have even some members of parliament from NPP within the northern region.
I'm speaking specifically about where I come from, which is the Upper East region.
Okay.
In the Upper East region, the NDC has like 99% of the seats.
Agree.
That's because of what the NDC does for the people of the Upper East region.
That's
the
wonderful.
NPP has a sole seat, Binduri. And I believe that in the coming election, we will take our seat back. The fact of the matter is that the NDC is that party that will look out for you, irrespective of your surname, irrespective of your village, irrespective of your father's name. The NDC does that. They care for you. We know the issue of people are getting the opportunity to occupy some positions now because of who their fathers were. I could give examples if you want.
We don't want to delve into that
into
too much
politics.
For now. But I mean, still on your journey, you've explained how attractive NDC was to you and how you started Your political, I mean, at a very, you should be like maybe in your teens at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And then, you went to senior high school. So give us more. How did your political career burgeon from then? After, from what you were saying, I believe that after basic school, you got into
The
senior
minor
high school,
seminary.
minor seminary,
Yes,
Notre
yes.
Dame, like
Yes, yes,
you
Notre Dame.
mentioned. So what then happened later on?
In Notre Dame, one teacher that influenced me in a very great way in Notre Dame was my teacher in government, Mr. Sylvester Isang Esquire. He's a lawyer
Oh, wow.
now.
Wonderful.
He taught me government, and he was a vandal.
Okay.
I mean, a law of common for. So he imbibed in us a certain belief that if you ever went to university in Ghana and you were not in Commonwealth Hall, then you didn't go to university.
Interesting.
You get the point. So he sort of further sparked our interest in the governance of this country. As part of the debate team of my school, I debated quite forcefully for my school on several competitions. I was part of the National Communications, National Civic Education team that were regional champions in Upper East.
Okay.
We came for the national contest in which that was my first time coming to Accra. As a 16-year-old was my first time coming to Accra. So we had when at Achimota, we competed with other regional champions. 10 regional champions. And we did quite well. Notre Dame did quite well under the flag of the Upper East region.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so Mr. Sylvester Isang, also in his teaching of government, would usually tell us about the politics of the country and how unfair some of the... Because in secondary school, for example, there's something called feeding grants. Northern schools are supposed to get something called feeding grants. And that was a policy President Nkrumah initiated because he realized that there was a certain disparity, that people from southern Ghana were years ahead of people from the north. And just so to encourage their education, people take up education seriously in the north. He introduced the feeding grants and several other initiatives. But in the period of 2000, and I went to secondary school in 2004, 2007, when I finished, feeding grants was a regular problem in most schools in the north. There were regular strikes. But the conference of heads of assistant secondary schools protested publicly several times, but we didn't get our feeding grants.
So are you, for the feeding grants, are you saying that it was only for the northern schools?
Well, at the time, I know that we had an issue of feeding. It's now that I'm aware of what's it called, buffer stock, producing food stuff for secondary schools.
Because I wanted to, ask whether the problem was only in the north.
Yes, at the time, there was no free SHS.
Yes.
But there was no free SHS. So in the
was
north,
was it a countrywide issue or was just
northern schools?
Northern schools. Okay.
It's about northern schools.
Okay.
So there's an association called the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. Headmasters of all of Tamar School, Ghana Secondary, Ogasanga Secondary, Zebila, Boko, the Nakwanduri Secondary School, all of the headmasters formed that association. And I remember them speaking very forcefully on why the government shouldn't. And, the thing is, whenever there were no feeding grants, would be home. While people in St. Augustine's, your school, Achimota, Presec, all the schools down south were in school. You see, that was an example of disparity.
I can understand that. I can understand that concern.
Yeah.
Okay. So then those things happened and that even pushed you to advocate more.
And then having to debate on it. I remember even having to debate an issue like whether or not foreign aid was good for Ghana, whether or not northern schools should keep relying on government subvention before students could have the right to education. That was quite a legal issue. Why should it be the case that my rights as a child, as constitutionally guaranteed, should be challenged because of the inefficiency of the executive? Those are very important issues.
They still are, to be honest.
They still are. I mean, I'm contextualizing within the framework of where I grew up and those are the thoughts that influence. So Mr. Sylvester is saying, and funny enough, I finished Notre Dame, applied to University of Ghana.
Okay.
I know you went to Lagos.
Yes, I did.
I went to the University of Ghana. I applied to the University of Ghana, and also applied to KNUST because my father said, my results came and the University of Ghana's admission came first. I remember in the seminary, those of us who said we're not proceeding to the major seminary and wanted to go to the university, of all of us that applied to various schools, of all of us that applied to Legon, I was the only one that, by the grace of God, had the fortune to be assigned to Commonwealth Hall. The only one. So I was so happy about it. I was so elated. And I started telling my friends that now that I'm going to University of Ghana and I'll be in Commonwealth Hall, my next ambition is to be Chief Vandal. Oh. Yes.
That's actually interesting. Yes. Chief Vandal.
I wanted to be Chief Vandal.
Okay.
But you see, growing up, I was quite radical in my thoughts. And I thank God for the discipline of my father because I probably may have. So my father started noticing my plans of wanting to be a vandal and the things I wanted to do when I got to Commonwealth Hall. But I think wise men have a way of staying calm the midst of. So he was just calm. Then KNUST's admission followed up. The very day I got my KNUST admission, my father said, "You are not going to Legon. You are going to Tech."
Wow.
And that was my first major
Heartbreak.
disagreement with my father. Of course, heartbreak, but
Yes.
disagreement. But on hindsight, I think that my father was only being prophetic because he was ordering my steps. God above was using my father here on earth to order my steps. I went to KNUST. My first few months in KNUST were unhappy moments for me. Unhappy.
Reason being,
I was not
if
happy
you don't mind asking.
because I didn't want to go to Tech.
Okay.
I wanted to go to Legon. I wanted to be a vandal. I wanted to be chief vandal.
So you had your plans for Legon already,
Laid
set
out,
out for
and
you.
my father
Yes.
thwarted them.
Interesting.
So when I got to Tech, I started getting involved in other things aside my books.
Okay.
I was not too keen on going for lectures and all of that. So I joined a campaign of someone who is now my very good friend and big brother figure in my life, Innocent Badasu,
Okay.
who ran for Social president. I was part of his campaign. I, literally gave my heart out for his campaign, hoping that I'd record my first tertiary electoral victory.
And how did that go?
Lost.
That's all right. Okay, so then this is first year.
First year.
All right.
I was mending posters all around,
Okay.
campaigning, shaking hands, vote Innocent Badasu for president.
So now, how do you rise from the ashes? You were thinking of chalking your first success in KNUST as part of a certain campaign team that didn't go well.
Yeah.
So how do you rise from the ashes?
The very day we're declared losers of the election, I told Innocent we are running again next year. This time not for faculty president, but president of the SRC.
Wonderful. And I believe who was
not
the candidate?
Me, Innocent again, because by
yes.
then I was now in second year, and Innocent was in third year.
Yes.
So Innocent ran for president of the SRC, of course, with me by his side. I supported him every step of the way.
And still,
we lost.
That's so. I'm trying to establish the fact that you have gone through different phases.
Absolutely.
When it comes to politics, so to speak. You've had your good times.
Yeah.
You've had your bad times.
Yeah.
I do not think that anybody who runs an election wants to lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yes, on 2 occasions, you were part of a certain campaign that lost.
Yes, significantly a part of.
Yes, and then you lost these elections.
Yeah.
What was running through your head at that point in time?
It's like, wow. Well, the dynamics were different. You see, we lost. We did a post-mortem of the election and we understood why we lost. We didn't lose that election because Innocent was not a good candidate. I believe Innocent was the best candidate. And today he's like a professor in Legon.
Okay.
He schooled abroad and all of that, extensively impacting his community and doing a lot of significant things. I believed in his competence. But, politics and elections have certain nuances and dynamics. Sometimes it just won't favor certain people.
Exactly.
Sometimes politics, just like when put me in some constituency in some part of Ghana, it's not likely they would vote for me.
Most likely.
That's a fact.
Yes, that's a fact.
So based on certain dynamics. So the same thing happened, I think, is why Innocent did not win.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But so when Innocent did not win, the agreement was that, well, if you've supported me all these years and I have lost, it's my turn as Innocent to support you. Running for president next year.
And you did, I believe.
I did.
And then this time around, what happened? How did that go?
Based on the experience I gathered, based on the massive support I got from friends, Julian Yakobna, Osman Ayarega, Sami Jimfi, Don Scooby, Rashid Etiaf, who is now Dr. Rashid, several people, massive support from people, Ziad Musa, people I'm eternally grateful for, Michael Lodziga, Sika Antobre.
Wow.
Several people, too many to list.
So this time around, I believe that you were...
so this time we dotted our I's, crossed our T's. We assembled the best political team, I think, ever assembled in the history of student politics in this country.
Wow.
I say that with no apologies because that team worked a miracle in KNUST. I was up against the forces of Nana Boache, current national youth, previously youth organizer of the NPP, and now national organizer of the NPP. Against Andrew Kati, former senior prefect of Achimota School, now a lawyer. Against Nana Brokwa. Against several other people, Dominic, several other people.
What do you think was different? I mean, you said you dotted your I's, crossed your T's, but what exactly you do differently this time around for you to? Because from what you're saying, you stood against very prominent people, people that should have been a threat, or were a threat, who were actually a threat to your success.
Yeah.
What was done differently? And I know that so it was around 2012, 2013,
11.
I believe. 2011, 2012. So there was I think NDC was in power at that time.
Yes, NDC was
Yes,
in power.
exactly. So just for us to for you to tell me what exactly was different this time, because you see you had run 2 already and both you had lost. Not you personally, but I mean you were an integral part of the team that ran for the social seat and also the SRC president later on. So this time, what was the difference that you think?
I think that we approached our campaign using the concept of diversity.
Okay.
Diversity, because a university is a place for universal learning,
Exactly.
constituted by people from different backgrounds, various different parts of this country. So I ensured that the team I assembled was diverse. We had people from the Upper East, Upper West, from Ashanti, from Eastern, from Volta, all across this country. And on every door we knocked, if there was anyone that spoke Cree, we had people. Of course, that was when I couldn't speak Cree very well at the time,
yeah.
but we spoke Cree to the person. Knowing that in Kumasi, Cree is like quite a favorite language to speak. If anyone spoke Ewe, we spoke Ewe to the person. If anyone spoke Dagbani, we spoke Dagbani to the person. If anyone spoke Gonja, we spoke Gonja to the person. Yes, because we had to be diverse. We had to reach out to people.
So diversity and inclusion
it's an important,
was your strategy this time around.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. People think that in politics you must concentrate on what you believe is your World Bank, like what we are seeing the NPP do today, thinking that choosing a running mate from Ashanti is that dose of betterment for them. But that cannot be the case. It cannot be the case that you can rely on Ashanti. You know the recent multidimensional poverty index released by the Ghana Statistical Authority. It says that in Ashanti region, over 1 million people are poorer today.
That is
1 million people are poorer today in the Ashanti region, which is supposed to be the World Bank of the NPP. It speaks to the fact that the NPP has neglected the people of Ashanti. It speaks to the fact that the people of Ashanti are worse off today under the leadership of a party that boasts day in and day out as being the saviors of Ashanti. And you'd want to compare that to the record of the NDC, which has invested in the Afari military hospital. You'd want to see about what the NDC has done in the KJTR market. Recently, something so disturbing happened in Ashanti. And I think that if I were president of this country, I'd bow down my head in shame. His Majesty, Nana Santehene Otumfuo Chancellor of the great KNUST. I've had the privilege of meeting him on several occasions. He's such a wise man, such a fatherly figure and all of that. Nana Otumfuo had to assemble his sons and daughters on this Heal Komfanoche project.
Yes.
It had to take citizens of Kumasi and all across this country to donate money to resuscitate the Komfanoche teaching hospital.
I mean, yes.
When the government could do nothing about it.
Yes, I mean, sometimes communal work also helps. Yes. Sometimes, you would want to come together as people in a certain community and then, put things together for your own betterment. It's not every time you have to sit and wait for the government. Ideally, in an ideal situation, I think that the government, can do more if they have the means to. I believe that as a nation, you mentioned diversity and inclusion. I think it's a very important point you made, that the only way that we can move on together as a nation is if we are actually inclusive in our thinking. If we're able to bring everybody on board, like you are saying, because it worked for you, for your campaign. But for me, I'm not even thinking about campaign, I'm thinking about progression as a nation. Because if we don't have that, because it looks like we are in a vicious cycle, so to speak, not to compare parties, because I'm not affiliated to any political party, but I think that with each government that comes on, we have certain problems. And then they go, another government comes in then. So I'm thinking that this is just my personal opinion, that your inclusion point that you made is very valid. Diversity inclusion is very, because we have people from different areas in this country. We are all still Ghanaian at the end of the day. Our passports say Ghanaian.
Yeah.
When you move outside Ghana, nobody knows the difference between the Ashanti and the Gonja. We are all one country.
Absolutely.
So yes, we made a valid point in that. But I'm also thinking that we need to, as the youth, you're a young man, you are into politics, affiliated to the National Democratic Congress. You were in power just, I think 7 years ago. Unfortunately, you had to, relinquish power to the NPP, and you are coming again in December.
By the grace of God and the will of the people.
You are contesting again in December. So we now we know what is happening currently in our economy as a people. We've had certain support from donor agencies. I mean, IMF has given us, 2 tranches already. I think they're going to bring a third one soon. What do you think we should have done? Because so right now we have a crisis on our hands. Businesses are shutting down. Not just businesses. Some multinational companies are leaving the country because they can't, make sense out of the business they are doing here. the exchange rate seems to be a problem. It has been a problem for a while, since I think late 2022 till date. I think that we're trying to get funds to handle this, but it didn't work out, because I mean, in the past few weeks we've seen a depreciation of the cedi again. So from your perspective, not just as an NDC man, but as a Ghanaian, as a professional, what do you think we need to do?
I'll situate this within the practice of our profession as lawyers. As lawyers, we are duty bound to speak the truth
Yes,
to our clients. We can't lie to our clients.
agreed.
We have a fiduciary relationship with our clients.
Exactly.
So we pursue the best interest of our clients. I believe that also in governance, those in authority have a responsibility to be truthful to the people they lead. They should mean what they say and say what they mean. And I'm saying this without any partisan dose, without any partisan color. Yes, the fact is that I am in the NDC because I believe the NDC is the better option to the economic salvation of our country. But put that aside, I speak today as a young Ghanaian who cares about the future of this country. I speak in the spirit of the Kenyan youth who are revolting now against their government. I hope one happens in Ghana.
That's a bold statement to make.
I hope it happens in Ghana.
I mean, we've had several. I think we had the Julobi house.
Yes. What's happening in Kenya is some. Well, I don't know if this is the right time for us to talk about it. Maybe we can talk about subsequent. Let me answer the question on. So politicians must mean what they say. So if you tell the people of this country that you are introducing flagship projects like one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one constituency, $1 million, planting for food and jobs. On paper, these look like very feasible, laudable, germane, important,
very wonderful ideas.
Yes. I believe that if these ideas were implemented, there would have been a turnaround of this country. But unfortunately, I don't think any of these have been a success. Because if you talk about having dams in every village, where do you come from, my brother?
From Winchi, Brongafu region.
Oh, Brongafu. Yes. I agree. I grew up, a bit of my life was in Winchi. Do you have a dam in Winchi? Constructed
not that I know of.
Not that you know of. Several villages across this country have been neglected, even though there was a direct promise by this government that they were going to implement one village, one dam. That would have helped in irrigation, like what John Mahama did in my constituency. There's something there's a Tamne Dam. There's a place called Tamne. So the Tamne Dam was constructed by John Mahama, and today go and see carrots, vegetables, tomatoes, all of being cultivated. The irrigation is booming in my constituency because of that intervention. So had it been the case that all of these dams were built across the various villages of this country, food sufficiency would have been something we would have been happy about now. If planting for food and jobs had succeeded, we would not have the case where government officials are stealing fertilizer and transporting it across the border of our country to sell for profit. Fertilizer meant for the poor farmer.
Let me hold you right there. I mean, government officials, do you have any evidence to that?
Yes, that's the thing. When the media tries to hold it, you have it. There's something called the court of public opinion.
Yes, exactly.
There are things we all see. And we've reached a stage where people are just so tired of what they see, they just shut up. Because government officials have become so used to acting so recklessly and wantonly because they believe they control the powers of government and that we, the people, do not have a voice. And that we, the people, are subjects. And that we, the people, should be trampled upon. That is where we've gotten to. If planting for food and jobs were a success, we should have been tomatoes should not be 10 cedis today.
Yes.
You know the current price of tomatoes?
Yes. I mean,
a tube of yam should not be about 70 Ghana cedis.
Now things, of course.
Gary, which was a savior for us when we were in secondary school, is now expensive. Onions is now being imported from Burkina Faso, Mali,
There are
Niger.
arguments, however, that during the NDC's time, there was no COVID.
There was no
COVID. So people within the NPP, not just people within the NPP, people, there's been the assertion that nobody could have predicted COVID. No economist could have predicted COVID. And that has had a dire impact on economies globally, including Ghana. And it's been used as a reason why we are where we are. Even though, I mean, it happened in 2020, there's been the remnants of the impact of COVID. And just I think that's a point that has been made by the NPP over the period by certain members of even I think the vice president himself, Ranmit has, and it seems to be in my opinion, it could be a valid reason why we are where we are, because it was a global pandemic and it affected so many things. What is your view? Are you saying that if COVID had happened during, your party's tenure, things would have been different?
Let me even add more excuses for you. Lazy excuses that this government keeps giving. Aside COVID, they also mention Russia